What's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of Becoming the 1% Podcast. My guest today is Todd Anderson from Dream Recovery. Back for the second time. We're going to talk about sleep, recovery, circadian rhythm, mouth tape, and everything you guys can do to improve your sleep on your own. Enjoy. This episode of Becoming the 1% Podcast. Entrepreneurial.
We got some really big things coming.
You have to have the willingness.
It's an A or B.
Try and use it as a tool.
This is phenomenal.
Odd details make up a person.
It's what we believe in the industry.
Hey, man. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah,
Welcome back.
it.
That's hysterical. 2 in 1 day for both of us.
I know. It's same place.
Exactly.
The chances were, I don't even know how small.
And you were on, remind me, it's Earn It All. You were on Earn It All, and I was on Tyler Hall.
It made me feel good because I hate being late. That's like a, I don't know, like a OCD thing, I guess. I was probably from football and my coaches. But then when I heard your voice was the one making me late, I felt a lot better about potentially being late. So
And we're like at the last tail end of it, and Andy sticks her head in. I was like, oh, I see what's happening.
she's
And-
on it too.
Yeah, we know.
Oh,
Trust
yeah.
me, Andy's great.
Yeah.
No, it's just hysterical how small the community really is.
Yeah.
Up
And
there.
I don't come out, this of all like the major U.S. cities, this is probably the one I come to the least.
Is Phoenix,
Yeah, I don't know why, but I love it here.
Yeah.
The weather's amazing.
especially now.
It's great.
going
So
to
I wish I
the best
came more,
time.
to be honest. But
Dude, you should.
Yeah.
It's definitely a mecca for this kind of stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
for fitness, for media, for podcasting, all that great stuff.
Yeah.
I say that, but honestly, there's not too many podcasts out here. Not in Phoenix. There's a couple.
Yeah.
There's a couple.
Yeah,
But
I feel like outside New York, LA, it's
Austin, dude. Austin.
Austin is
Austin, yeah.
Austin's where everyone's at. If you took a poll of I think all the top podcasters are probably in Austin. Most of them.
We were super close to moving to Austin,
Where's Rich Roll's place?
in like Malibu.
Of course it is.
Calabasas, yeah.
Good for him. That had
It's
to
in
be
the
quite
most.
an
You would
experience.
never know. It's like a little warehouse. If you walked by, you'd have no idea.
I love that. I love seeing the different layouts. I was talking about that with Tyler before we started, which interestingly enough, I didn't realize do they share that space? Do you know? I didn't know.
I
You and
believe so.
I mean, you and I are the guests, so we're not supposed to know these things, but
They do share it, yeah.
They share.
Obviously.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. When she came in, it's like, you're over time. I was like, oh, this is like you share this. He's like, yeah, we share with her and it all. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But
It's good
the
setup.
more I see, I love the different setups people do for their.
Theirs is nice. I mean, it's also some of the podcasts is not a great setup, but I mean, it looks great. It's surprising sometimes when you like see it backed up from the camera and it's just like this wall, but sometimes they look amazing like that, or it's
Yeah.
just a table.
Yeah, sometimes it makes me feel weird that I spend all these time building these freaking Legos and doing this whole thing. I'm like, man, this guy put a sheet up
Yeah, but
in
that's-
his basement and he's crushing it.
Yeah, but you could also just have regular dumbbells and squat racks. And that's pretty on brand for you.
Unacceptable.
Yeah.
Just unacceptable.
Then no one would get mad in the comments of our videos.
Bro, people get furious.
About what?
Oh my goodness. Any video he's in. The last one
That
we
actually
did-
checks out.
It's just you.
I'm the ultimate troll.
Yeah.
They bring me in for my.
You want to know what it is? Because you interact with the trolls unlike me. That's part of it. These people ask. So there's this product that we did something with. It's called stack bands.
Okay.
You got to check them out before you go. They're awesome. They basically there's 2 pin placements. They go onto a selectorized stack on a machine.
Yep.
And they have bands that you can change
Oh, that's
from
great.
side to side.
And then you can just,
And as it stretches, perfect. Okay, so that's the product.
it's like accommodating resistance on the cable.
Precisely.
Ignore Brandon's pants in this video.
I love my
Easier
pants in this
said
video.
than done.
I thought all the comments were going to be about my pants. They're all attacking you. They're saying people. I don't.
Wait, what?
Okay, so what they're saying, and I don't know if this is because people don't understand basic mechanics of what a band does, or if they don't understand muscle mechanics. But basically, what people were saying, people were like arguing that, oh no, that's wrong. The band shouldn't be tied at the top. The band should be tied at the bottom. He's doing it wrong. It sucks. And that's the face I made. I'm like, I'm not
That's
even
a
gonna.
great idea.
Isn't that smart?
Like,
That inventor, that guy brought me 3 products in the last week, all 3 of which are going to be market crushers.
I want to.
He has a sled, dude. He sent, and I want to show you this stuff before
Yeah.
you take off. 'Cause
Yeah,
you
yeah.
got to get both of these.
Yeah.
He gave us his only prototype on this thing. I don't even know the name of it, but I'll get it to you. This sled has it's a sled that's magnetic with an app. The app the trainer holds. The resistance, you can do rolling hills where the resistance gets
Oh, but
harder
that's
than
sick,
lighter.
yeah.
And I can vary the resistance to go left and right. I shit you not. So you're driving like you're on the line, and it will pull you left and right like you're hitting like a linebacker. Like
and then does it track like speed too?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. It
That's
tracks
incredible.
speed. It tracks steps. It's amazing.
What's the name of the company? That's getting a great plug.
It's getting an amazing
The
plug.
fact that you don't know. I mean,
Hang on. Nope. You know what? I think I can find it. Someone talk about something while I pull up this guy's
I'm going to bring up the
text.
fact that technology and fitness equipment are like exploding. Like Garage Gym Reviews brand just did like the Voltra. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I'm going to text this to you, bro. It's called Mach Fitness. MACH Fitness. Their website. So this is their app.
I mean, that's
It's
incredible.
Advanced.
Yeah.
Advanced what they have made. So he came out with that product, this product, and another product that he's about to get me. They made a linear hack squat machine that converts into a hip thrust machine, which is interesting, but not like this.
That's
This
a good value.
People were saying,
That seems much harder to produce, and that stick to the bands.
yeah.
yeah,
This
That-
margins.
Yeah, margins.
Yeah.
People can take
Shipping.
that to people can take that to the gym in their pocket, bro. It's so small.
And it's so useful.
It changes the movement, dude. Like
Yeah.
you notice it. Noticeably different and more challenging when you are using those things.
Well, it's also nice too because to do a pure like band accommodating resistance, like it's tough because like to have a big thick band, there's such a variance from like lengthen to shorten. So like that you could get a pretty good load with some accommodating resistance, which is rare to do.
Yeah.
Except for like a barbell, obviously.
Because a guy your size is not gonna go like if you there's a product out. I don't even recall the name of it, but it doesn't have a selectorized stack. It's just a band loaded machine. You hook it on your rack, and they're
Right.
like, okay, here's band 1, here's band 2, and I've seen people doing it, and they're cranking. I'm like, dude, I could crank out 50
what I mean.
reps before something
Like,
happened. That's
sweet.
different.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah,
could you make a chain variation of this? You think?
Definitely.
you definitely could.
But I feel like the problem with the chain is like it's gonna like you don't know what the bottom of each machine looks like.
It might
So if
get
we go
stuck.
back to that, when it gets to it, like that, the chain's gonna be it wouldn't work.
It'll interfere with the cable.
It would also be you'd have to haul a chain around with you in order to make it a difference. Like you could make it more of a permanent gym fixture, like hey, you can hang these chains on the walls, but you're not going to be able to. That can go, like I said, in your pocket.
Yeah.
You could take that with you to the gym.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean that's a great idea. Hopefully they patented that.
I think they did. But yeah, man, I'm just seeing so much incredible, creative, and fun new things coming out. It's just it's the best industry to be in for innovation, at least for me. I get excited every time I see, you guys have new products, all kinds of new stuff.
Yeah.
What are you working on these days?
So we just came out with like the mini strips. So they're like a small vertical. I actually sent you guys some. You're on the shipping list, but
Oh,
it's just a small vertical strip that has a little stronger adhesive for people who are just nervous about it and they want to try it. And it is weird. Like the first time you mouth tape, you're covering up your mouth. Everybody has that thought of like, am I going to be okay? Am I going to stop breathing? So this is kind of an in between, just to basically a reminder for your brain to allow yourself or keep your mouth shut. But also like I like it more because it's not on my skin as much, and
Yeah.
I'm not like I'm a mouth breather, but I only need a subtle reminder to actually keep my mouth shut. So it's like minimalist almost. And there's a lot of people that want to try it, but they're just kind of freaked out, which is totally valid. So it's kind of in between solution. And then the nasal strips, we're just finalizing manufacturing, but we're super hype about the nasal strips just because there really hasn't been much innovation on nasal strips at all. It's just been kind of the same Breathe Right crushed it. It's been kind of the same iterations of.
What are you guys going with as far as what sort of material are you using for it? Is it plastic?
It's going to be like a plastic-ish material. We're still working through which type we're going to use. I'm trying to use something that's.
Did you ever
more-
see Intake?
So Intake
Intake's-
is I think the best product out there.
Yeah.
As far as function goes, so we basically tried to make that function, but for an athlete to be able to use it because Intake will pop off. So anybody that's playing a sport can't use it. So we try to we mimic like from a physics perspective, the angles of pull on Intake in a disposable one-piece unit. And we figured it out. We worked with some product engineers from Columbia, New York City, University of Columbia, and or Columbia University, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we worked with them for about probably 5 months on this, and then so now you're working on the physics of it. Then you're working with the tape manufacturers to try to figure out, okay, what type of adhesive do we want it to be, and we wanted to use clear adhesive so it actually looks cool, because our goal is to get NBA guys, runners, people that golfers.
Is yours going to be 2 parts like intake where you have
No.
your plastic? Good. That's the
because
only...
it can't fall off.
I liked intake, but that was my biggest thing. The problem with intake was, and I need to give them this feedback. So their strips, which stuck to your nose,
Yep.
were not as strong as the magnetic force of that
Yeah.
plastic piece. So they would come off, and your nose would close.
I'll show you a
That's
little
what
tidbit.
I need to give them. I honestly do owe them that feedback. I hate giving people bad news.
Well,
man. I hate, even when it's constructive. I hate being the guy to tell
Yeah,
people.
no, but it's a great. They're great. If it sticks. And the other thing that really is necessary for all nasal strips I've learned is just taking an alcohol swab and cleaning your nose off real quick makes a world of difference. Most people don't do that, but if there's oil on,
right
if
there,
it's really
it's
oily,
like the oiliest part of
you
your
could
nose.
have the best adhesive ever, and nothing's gonna work. I'm trying to find a little.
That's a good point, and I do have oily skin, especially. I mean, I feel like if you wash your face right before you go to bed, that should help a little bit, but
yeah.
especially if you're trying to exercise with it.
Yeah, you can't fix whatever's going on over there.
No, that's,
Really tough.
That's all you can do.
I could try.
I like the vertical design for the mouth tape though.
Yeah.
Because for me, I wake up and drink a lot during the night, and if I have like a straw or something,
Yeah, you can
You
totally-
don't have to take off
That's
the
a good
tape all the
point.
way.
That's a good. I didn't
And also
think about
that one you can just pop off the bottom of it too, because it just connects it 2 spots.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to find a little.
Yeah. Although I will say, I mean, maybe I'm more of an aggressive
Like
mouth
that's what it
breather.
looks. That's what that looks like.
That is it. Wait, is
That's
that
the vertical?
That's
I like
what
it.
I like it.
And then for the nasal strips,
The thing I found to be most nice.
Wow.
That looks great.
it's pretty cool. Looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think the aesthetic also, like, we want to, obviously we want, nasal breathing is a movement, but to be fair, like the big nasal strips right now, they're still aesthetically, like, it's so aggressive and like in your face. If you just walk around with that, people are going to be like, what are you doing? So we want to make it like subtle and make it so like if you were just wearing that around, it wouldn't be a big deal. We're going to do some totally clear ones and just try to make it more like socially accepted and try to make them look cool. That's why like even finding clear tape that worked like the functionality perspective was actually relatively difficult because it has to be breathable and but that was important because we don't want someone not to do it because they're self-conscious. Like we know how powerful nasal breathing is. That shouldn't be a barrier to overcome.
Yeah.
So trying to
Agreed.
make them a minimal and look kind of cool. And I think with how they look, it could be almost like it is a cool thing to wear around instead of this like giant black thing on your nose.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's almost become an influencer thing to do.
I
Feels
know.
like all the influencers
Hormozy-
are wearing it.
Hermosi crushes it though because he's just like so like, yeah, man, like this is me. Like it's so authentic.
Yeah.
It's cool. But like other people, I'm like,
Yeah.
all right.
I wonder where you got that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, I think I actually prefer, and I only have hostage to compare it to, but I liked that your strips were actually larger. For me, I would find out that I had opened my mouth in the middle of sleep when I used to wear hostage tape, and that's the thing I liked about yours. Is it was the first time when I wore it, I was like, oh, it worked all night long. Didn't move at all.
Yeah, that was intentional. We went 4 millimeters wider on purpose and then squared it off because those corners are actually like the anchors. That's when you get the most stick, and that's like smooth the surface area on your mouth. So a lot more secure. And we get feedback all the time that I've tried like every mouth tape, especially people with a beard, and ours is the only one that actually sticks.
Agreed. Yeah. Because I have had tape with a beard, had tape without a beard, and I noticed that it was significantly less efficient when I would grow out my facial hair.
Yeah.
And even if it worked, it worked less.
Yeah.
And this is the first one where it actually does do what it's supposed to, even if you have a beard.
Yeah, I
Like,
love
so-
that. Yeah, the adhesive was like I learned more about adhesive than I ever want to know. Like I thought it was going to be like the easiest thing, and it's like, oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
we actually just launched on Amazon today.
Nice, dude.
Oh, congrats.
It's been a battle, like because they banned all mouth tape for a while, and then they slowly let some back
Wait,
on.
where? When?
They
Banned it.
banned it about 3 months ago.
Where? On it.
All all on Amazon.
Who's they? Oh, Amazon.
Yeah,
Really?
because a lot of people were breaking out because a lot of these companies use like these like sketchy Chinese adhesives. There's no regulations,
Sure.
and so ours is significantly more to produce, but it's worth it in the long run
Won't
because
break
eventually
out, yeah.
people will figure it out. But yeah, people were breaking out, and then the way they were being advertised, like there was FDA claims being made that were just false. They pulled it all down, and now they're gradually letting some back on, but it's kind of a gray area. So we're seeing how it goes. We had like this huge Amazon launch plan scheduled out, and literally 2 days before, all of it got banned. So,
Wow.
How many different companies were doing it? I've only seen
Oh, there
you
were
guys
tons.
and maybe
Tons.
one or two others.
there was like these like almost non-branded, super cheap
Yeah.
like the little X ones. I think everyone starts off with like some really cheap version, right? And then you figure out, okay, I need something that's like made for this, and then you transition to like a better
Oh, yeah.
option.
Well, I mean, I was doing
Or 3M.
athletic tape
Yeah, for sure.
before there was any actual mouth tape companies.
Some of the athletic tape works pretty well. It's just I think the convenience and like just not having the shape of it makes a difference.
It also would. I'm speaking. I mean, if you had a beard or a mustache and you used athletic tape.
Oh, you're talking like the white old school athletic.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
no,
Oh
that's
yeah. I
double.
used.
Yeah.
Stuff that you wrap the hockey stick.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
that'll rip your face off for sure.
It would rip. Yeah, it would rip your mustache right off your face.
Yeah.
But that's what I tried when I first heard about this years
Like ankle
ago.
tape, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's-
Exactly.
yeah.
And it would rip it right off
The
your face.
KT tape is definitely the better of the.
I never
rolled
tried KT
option.
tape.
It's-
Yeah.
that's definitely the best of the rolled options.
Yeah. Nice.
So do you guys have like a subscription model or
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, so we run a subscription, and that does really well. I mean, that's where most of our customers are at, and we try to push that because it's something that you really do have to see through. I mean, I felt way better the first night, but some people, it's definitely an uncomfortable. It's not a natural feeling to have that on the first couple nights. So I think pushing people towards that, like once they get used to it, they have a much better experience. So we try to. It's almost from a mission perspective or like a ideology perspective of why we're adamant about that. I mean, everybody loves subscription businesses, but
Yeah.
that's really not it. It's more about like see this through, really commit to it for a significant amount of time, and then feel the difference. Because if you try it for a week, it's not going to do anything. And we're super loose with refunds. Like if it doesn't work for you, like we refund you like in 2 seconds. Like
Because I'm trying to convince my wife to start using it.
yeah.
How long should I tell her to use it before she starts to see results or starts to experience the difference?
I mean, it really depends on her mindset around it and
Okay.
like how comfortable she is and nervous. But I think 2 weeks is a good amount of time before hopefully you settle into it and then you start to feel a difference. You probably won't feel a massive difference like day to day maybe, but I think you'll feel a big difference. Like you'll get used to it and then you'll realize, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
And then over a couple months you'll feel better. But we've had people literally, my friend Dika, she's probably mid 50s, early 50s, exhausted. Her and her husband both snored, and she had to take a nap every single day for like the last 10 years. Started mouth taping, no naps. Doesn't have to take a nap ever. So much energy, like literally transformed her life. I mean, she's getting hours back every single day.
Probably
Think how
less
valuable
snoring,
that is.
too. I mean,
no snoring. I mean, like
yeah.
literally, it almost makes me like emotional, which is like not right now, but when I talk to her, because it's had such a positive impact on her life that it's like it's really cool to hear. And there's a lot of people out there like that. I mean, I was not the extreme example of that, but I mean, the difference was crazy. I was like, I feel like a different person. I feel like I always describe it like when you're a kid and you wake up and you just like, you're a kid, you sleep so well, and that kind of gradually falls apart. But I went right back to that, and every night I fall asleep, I feel like I'm out like a light.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
No,
like a
I
Drake,
think it-
little Drake reference, but
I think it. What were you just saying about Drake? No,
I mean, you saw like on Twitter what happened.
Drake's dick pic just.
oh
got
yeah,
leaked.
yeah,
You saw that?
yeah, I did.
Yeah, apparently I was the only one in this
Congrats,
group that
congrats to him.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. I'd never even heard that happened. But
Sure,
yeah,
right.
Good for him.
Totally.
Yeah.
I didn't even. He's like, I didn't even hear.
What did he say?
You got
Something about
seven screenshots on your phone.
He made some comment. He just what I think is hysterical about that. He just embraced it.
I mean, you have to.
He rolled with it. He's like, "There's nothing I could do. It's out
Also,
there."
though, like
he probably leaked.
you embrace, yeah, he embraced it for a reason. Let's be honest.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to try it in the. I want to try it in the
Try
float
what?
tank. The mouth. Not the dick pic.
Drake, Drake, if you're listening.
Big fan. Big
Oh.
fan. Herbert.
Drake, if Drake is miraculously listening, I mean,
Never know.
never know. But no, I want to try it in the float tank. I've been thinking about that too.
Oh,
that is because it's you may not be asleep, but it's the exact same.
Well, that's what's cool about it is I actually think there's such a benefit in having people do it during the day because people don't even realize how much your breath affects your nervous system. And there's so many breathing protocols, and breathing is it's almost like cliche to talk about that I think people shy away from it. And a lot of times the people who are the most stressed and they need to focus on nasal breathing and breathing in general the most are the ones that will immediately shut off when they talk about breathing because they're like, I have ADD. I can't pay attention. I don't want to do that. I want to really buy into it. So the tape is just like, you put it on, your body's like, oh no, we're going to figure this out because that's the only way to breathe. And they don't realize it's like putting bumpers on a bowling alley. They're forced to learn how to breathe out of their nose, calm themselves down, or else they can't do whatever they're doing. So I think it's a really great way to like show someone that maybe is too high strung or would never buy into breathing and understanding nasal breathing. It just, put some parameters around them where they're forced to do it.
I had a client couldn't figure out how to do box breath for an ice bath, and I gave him a dream recovery. I told him, all right, you know what,
Right.
You're gonna have to trust me on this, but you're gonna wear this next time you do this.
Your body will figure it out.
He couldn't figure it out.
But he probably is. I have no idea who he is, but he probably is the type of person that just wouldn't listen, or like, he's just
Oh, he's
horrible at following directions.
He's terribly successful and has terrible ADD at the exact same time.
And those are a lot of the people that actually need the stress management skills the most. So it's a great way just to be like, just let your body do its thing. It's going to figure it out. And then they realize, I feel so much better. And then one thing turns to another. And then, 6 years down the road, they're training with Wim Hof probably and fully
Doing
invested.
retreats in the Alps somewhere.
Yeah.
Is he still doing that?
Oh, yeah.
Probably. It's
He probably still is.
He has a
isn't
huge following now. It's pretty incredible. Like when Jesse wrote his foreword in his book way back in the day, and nobody even knew who he was. That was like 5 years ago, and now it's pretty cool how many people are doing his stuff.
Or following his protocols,
His
breathing methods. Yeah.
the app is so funny because his voice is so distinct. It's just like, let your body do what it's meant to do.
The cold.
Yeah,
The cold. Yeah.
it's just very repetitive too. But
He is. He says the same thing over and over, but he has a very, very clear way of explaining it.
yeah, it's so simple that it works. It's just like it's there's nothing more said than what needs to be said. It's very minimalistic.
Yeah. I think his whole life is sort of like that. He lives in this little like shanty in the middle of nowhere. He has
Poland.
He has a you ever seen his backyard, his pool? He has like a high dive that he built to jump into with like a play pool.
It's like a waterfall, right? Or
It's like a waterfall.
rock
They
feature.
they built it, and then it's weird. It's the pool it's a cold plunge, but it's like a it's like that, only that. It's not like a big pool you would normally have a big waterfall over. The waterfall is way bigger than the pool.
Yeah, he's very interesting. He's almost like mystical.
He certainly, I think he sees himself that way. I mean, I
Yeah.
think he's 2 parts, life guru, 1 part.
That's not what I
cold,
expected, right there.
I wouldn't have expected that either. No, he does he has a lot of interesting content that sometimes has absolutely nothing to do with the cold.
I actually just started following him yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the methods and all that, but
Right.
There
That's what I'm
we
talking
go.
about.
There
This
we
is
go.
See, this is what's interesting. It's
Whoa.
not a pool. It's like a he made it. It looks like he made that.
that was also sketchy right there.
I've never seen him do head first. That must be pretty darn deep.
I mean, with my nose, I would have shattered my face
He made
like a dolphin.
That's funny. It looks like he made it specifically just for that, just so he could go up there and jump in that. Like that's its only reason.
That's what he does every morning.
He says he gets up and he shouts at the world and then he jumps in.
Like that couldn't have felt good. No
Landing
way.
right on your head.
Who wakes up just angry like that?
Not me.
You wake no.
I'm trying to wake up like that the least amount possible.
Seriously, I had a question about your tattoo because I know it's a pin post, the walk.
Oh, yeah.
What does that mean?
So I walked down at Michigan State in football, but it's more about this mentality of, I've had a lot of amazing things happen in my life and great people, and things seem to just fall into place. And sometimes I'll attribute it to luck or tell myself that, you know, oh, it just happened because the chances of, you know, I met someone or whatever it may be. And I think it's just a reminder, like, you know, being a walkout, and I felt so out of place. Like my talent level was so much less than the people around me. And I think if you're doing the right things in life, you feel like that a lot. You know, when you're pushing the limits of what you're capable of and really going after things, you get in these rooms and you feel like, you know, you don't necessarily belong there. But like sometimes, you know, it's just a reminder that you might not always have a place at the table, or you might not feel like you deserve a place at the table, but that doesn't mean that you don't belong there. And eventually, if you hang out at that table long enough, you're going to be the most deserving person there, and you're just going to be one of the people you're around. So, you know, it's a subtle reminder. You know, I guess I definitely, you know, sometimes have doubt and deal with imposter syndrome like a lot of people do, but you know, there's a reason why things happen. And you know, it's also a reminder that, you know, you're not owed anything. You know, being a walk-on, you have to earn every single day. You get cut any day, right? It's almost like every day you had to earn your spot on the team. So just, you know, understanding that, because I think when you approach life in the way of earning things and that you're not owed anything, you have a ton of gratitude for things that you accomplish and good things that happen in your life. And that was like my theme of last year. Gratitude was like the word I really tried to focus on. And I think having that mentality and, you know, really understanding the amount of work that goes into something and accepting that and having the expectation that you're going to have to work every single day, nothing's going to be owed to you, and that, you know, it's all there for the taking, but you're going to have to make it happen. The amount of gratitude that comes with that is immense. And there's not I mean, if you're grateful, you can be in almost any situation in life and be happy. I think that's what I've experienced. So,
I agree.
And whenever I lose touch in that, well, usually Katie, my wife, will sort me out before I even realize it. But it's just a reminder, you know, it's good. And it's also a reminder too of just where I started, where I've been, you know, what I've been through. And because sometimes, you know, life has its ups and downs, and sometimes you need a kick in the butt, and, you know, to remind that you felt this way before and you've gotten through it.
Yeah.
And I think you just touched on a point that so many of us deal with, but we don't often talk about, and that is the imposter syndrome. And I think social media has exacerbated that significantly, because we always see the best foot forward of what people put on social media, and that's not really reality.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think though, if you have imposter syndrome, it's a really good thing, because that means you're doing stuff that you deem extraordinary, right? You deem that you are pushing your limits, and you're questioning if you're capable of these things or if you're deserving, which is a great place to be, because you kind of have to, you know, flirt with that fringe in order to progress at the rates that we probably all want to progress at. But I think what I always come back to is, like, at the end of the day, like, especially with Dream and stuff, my number one goal literally is, if I can help as many people as I want, which sounds so cliche, but really, like, there's nothing more satisfying to me than, you know, getting a message about someone that feels so much better, or, you know, it's impacted the quality of their life in any way. So if I just keep that in the forefront of my mind, I might misquote a study, you know, I might, you know, misquote some different data, whatever it may be. But if I'm just trying to help, right, I'm not trying to scare people, or, you know, there's not like a motive beyond just trying to help, then I think I can sleep soundly at night. But no pun intended. But, you know, I think it goes back to like the mission, and that's kind of like what's cool about Dream is, honestly, I started really diving into sleep like probably 5 or 6 years ago and speaking on it more regularly. And like the mission of the company started a long time ago.
How old is the company?
8 months. We launched.
I was gonna say
literally after I was here last time.
Yeah,
so 8 months
I remember
ago.
we were talking about it.
Yeah, and so like the mission's been there, and the products were just a outcome of the mission and the circumstances. I would go speak on this stuff, and we're trying to help people and educate people, and I would get asked for recommendations and everything out there. There was always a drawback of all these different products out there. So I was like, well, there's clearly an opportunity here. I'm sick of recommending other products that I don't feel awesome about. And so let's do this. So I think that's why it's also been not easy, but it's been easy to talk about and, you know, be authentic with, because like been on that path for a long time. It's just the products have been, you know, the products came from that mission and just a need.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, there was definitely a need for this long before there was a really quality product to meet.
Yeah.
I mean, people have probably been sleeping pretty bad for a very, very long
Yeah.
time. it was a really fringy thing for a very long time. I knew about sports science training and recovery for years before I'd ever heard about mouth taping.
Yeah.
And then when I heard about mouth taping, it was really just like you said, KT tape, man, or athletic tape. Try whatever might work, and then.
Yeah, and even when I was, when I stopped playing football, that was 2013. We had sleep doctors come in, but like, the only thing ever spoken about with sleep and performance was how many hours you should get, and that was the extent of it, and that was only like 10 years ago. So it's pretty incredible how much science has come out and how much people are focused on. It's wild just how much people care now. Like when I first started talking to companies on sleep, I was living in Chicago, so we would have like a phone call about, okay, so we want to do like a presentation to our team. And I'm like, yeah, like sleep is probably our most impactful one. And they're like, oh, how long do you need? Like 10 or 15 minutes? And I was like, no, like an hour. And they're like, you can talk about sleep for an hour? And I was like, yeah. And now, finally people are realizing this pretty intricate subject and people are into it, like, and I think it's because I think they've heard the stuff for a while, but they never really fully bought into it. But now there's been such great data and studies, and people are also getting better at communicating why it's important, that they're like, okay, I'm starting to believe in this. They dedicate themselves to it, and then once they feel the difference, they're all in. They realize
something you got to experience first. Yeah.
But a couple nights.
I think it's also like
anyway.
Yeah, and I don't think people have allowed themselves to dedicate themselves to sleep, because up until now, it's been like the whole rise and grind mentality, sleep when you're dead. Like, if you're going to be successful, like, you got to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And really, like with Dream, we're trying to put an end to the rise and grind mentality. And not because, like, we're going to do just the amount of work, probably more work. But the difference is, I always talk about the two biggest things to have a happy, successful life is purpose and also feeling as good as you can. So, like, it's not really rise and grind when you wake up, you had a great night's sleep, you're taking care of yourself. And then you have purpose and you're excited to go after something. Like, that couldn't feel further from a grind. Like, that's just an exciting day. That's a purposeful day. And that's a much different mentality than dragging yourself out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and just like slugging through the day. And
do you remember that Wes Watson video where he says he's like, bro, I've been up since 2 a.m. I've done 3 workouts already. I'm doing the.
I think everyone's seen that.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, that is literally yesterday.
Oh, dude, that is.
What
one of my favorite videos.
Who's the one guy that I don't know who he's a social media guy that was like talking about he like sleeps 3.5 hours and he's like, I convinced myself I don't need sleep, and he's like, I don't get sick, and I'm just like, I'm like, when you're 45, you're gonna be in a bad place.
Oh yeah,
if he's even being honest.
Yeah, I was about to say this is all predicated on the notion that he's telling the truth in his video.
That he actually wakes up at 3 a.m.
It's hard to tell. I actually think he's being honest.
Who was it? Do you remember?
He has a beard. He's pretty well known.
Are you sure it's not Wes Watson? This sounds like Wes Watson.
Someone else.
I wouldn't know that name.
Yeah, it's someone else.
Kind of has reddish hair.
Dang it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
I wanted to make sure while we were in here, we talked about the NFL, just with the Super Bowl having just happened and everything. Just because you've got such a background in it, I wanted to hear your opinion on it. I mean, first of all, you watched the Super Bowl, I assume. Yeah. What has been the change and shift that you've seen the NFL go through since let's just use 2013 to 2023. It's perfect. It's 10 years.
Yeah.
In the last 10 years, what have you seen happen?
I think, like, as far as the game goes or the culture, just in general.
Yeah, just in general. I mean, there's a lot of people saying the NFL's rigged. Game was bullshit. That they gave him an extra down. It's soft. All of that stuff.
Yeah. The thing is, I mean, the whole rig thing. Like, literally, this is the thing. The amount of collusion that would have to take place in order to do that is just statistically impossible. Like, you would have to get so many people on board at the same time in basically lips sealed forever that anything like that was going on, that it's just extremely unrealistic. And also, like, people don't realize, but like, these guys are dedicating their entire life. They work there. All they want to do is win a Super Bowl. Right.
And
so, like, there's no way any of them would be on board with that. So you can take the players out of it. Like, anybody at that level as a competitor would never be on board with that. So then it pretty much becomes down to the referees. And
what do you know what I'm talking about, though, with the extra down? That thing that Mark Bell posted.
What happened, though, I think, is that they went back and reviewed it. And basically, it was kind of a bad spot, and the TV copy didn't think they got a first down, but it was actually a first down. The TV said second down, so it was just a mistake by the TV.
It's a production.
Yeah,
thing.
and it was kind of like a hurry up thing. So it would be so hard to do something like that. But I do think, though, I mean, basketball would be much, much easier, which people have gotten caught for, the referees.
Yeah, the referees.
But-
Who was that one ref that had
Yeah.
it out for? Was it Chris? Oh, man.
Well, that one guy got caught with the gambling thing.
Yes.
But I think there is the way that they would impact the game would be like, let's say the Chiefs run certain protection, or they have they have a tackle that is outmatched with the D end, something like that, and the NFL comes in and says, okay, we want to emphasize holding on the right side, or they show them, before each game they look at game film, and the other team will send in concerns of like, okay, last game, like there was pass interference, this guy was like tugging on the jersey, like keep an eye out for that. It's meant to be productive and just to make sure everything's fair. But if the NFL came in and wanted to emphasize a rule a little bit more that maybe impacted one team over the other, that would probably be the only way that it could be done. But it's just so many moving parts to have something like that happen.
Sure.
And a lot of guys care way too much. You know what I mean?
No, if anything, I agree with you. If anything like this were to ever happen, it would have to be top down, and they would have to not tell the players, because there'd be no way you would get any of those guys on board. First of all, none of them would be able to poker face their way through something like that.
And then the refs too, like they've also dedicated their entire life to the sport, in which they probably got into it for the same reasons the players do, just loving the sport. You don't get to that level without loving what you're doing. It's also not that sought after. It takes a ton of work to be an NFL referee. So it's just like, I'm sure there's a few bad apples here and there that maybe has something that's happened, but for the most part, it'd be so hard to figure something like that out.
Speaking of NFL and sleep, I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to watch the Hard Knocks with the Miami Dolphins.
Yes.
But there was the coaches were talking to the players at one point in that series, and they're like emphasizing, you guys need to get X amount of sleep tonight. Make sure you're turning off your, like, it was very specific, and it was aimed directly at their sleep and their rest and recovery, which I've never seen that before in NFL films or anything like that.
Yeah, no, it's become a huge point of emphasis, because people are realizing, well, it really started, they did a study, I want to say 6 or 7 years ago, and they looked at Monday Night Football. And Monday Night Football is interesting because it's an 8 p.m. kickoff Eastern Standard Time, right? So when an East Coast team played a West Coast team, it'd be a 5 p.m. kickoff for the West Coast team, right? So when the East Coast team,
3-hour advantage.
Yep, East Coast versus West Coast. On the East Coast, the West Coast team won 75% of the games.
Whoa.
Regardless of record.
Wow.
Regardless of record. So what they realized is that circadian rhythm has a huge impact.
Yeah.
And so teams started becoming very intentional with
Especially
their travel.
5 p.m. to 8 p.m. because 8 p.m. for a lot of people is where you start winding down and go to sleep.
And 5 p.m. is pretty primed, especially for a guy. Like, that's a really good time. Most world records are broken in the early afternoon to late afternoon. So, from a cardiovascular perspective, you're very efficient at that time.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and so, like, that difference is huge. As soon as you get a statistic like that, teams are going to start focusing on it. And so it's also a pretty wild stat, because when regardless of records, 75%, like, I mean, if it's even deviated more than 5%, that's a huge statistical number, right? Just from a math perspective. So I thought that was pretty wild.
I think that's
very
insane.
Yeah.
I
So from a betting perspective, if anybody is a sports bettor out there,
lean on the
But-
West Coast if it's
but be assured that Vegas knows all these studies.
Yeah, I was gonna say the over under is gonna
They
reflect
factored
that.
it in.
If you had that information right after and nobody else knew, like if you were the doc in charge of that study and you're
Yeah.
just sitting there like, you
Uh,
guys want to go?
yeah,
to
let me
Vegas this
let me
weekend?
look at my findings a little bit longer,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
a week.
Yeah, we're gonna prolong this. We'll get some more data. That's pretty cool.
I mean,
it makes
so-
sense though. Like,
yeah, totally makes sense. You
And
get
I
more
think-
sleep, and you have a different time zone you're dealing with, so you're used to going to sleep later than the other team is. Like, if they're an East Coast team based on the East Coast, it's like almost time to go to sleep if it's 8 p.m.
yeah. What's cool though is like now they're actually getting because it used to be like people understood it in sleep, but there wasn't like studies done that was directly measuring performance in like sport or like strength or even jumping. There wasn't a lot of direct performance studies. Now we're getting stuff like that where it was really hard to convince a guy to go to bed early in the NFL, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this relates to me.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to care, which is really the biggest. That's most of the time. Like when I go in to talk to like a college football team, for example, once you educate them and you talk about studies and data that relates to them, they go from I've heard this 100 times to like I now care about it because you're talking to me in a way that actually I'm interested in and I care about, instead of just talking at them and telling them why they need to do a certain thing and how something's bad for you. Like when I go in, I'll talk about like alcohol use, THC use, like how's that actually impact things. Not shy away from it and say just don't do it, it's bad for your sleep. Okay, like why is it bad? How, if you're going to do it, how do you do it? How do you mitigate the negative outcomes from it? And like people are all of a sudden, you know, on board. And there's been some teams that make big changes. Like guys are, you know, talking about like getting a good night's sleep before a workout, understanding like the hormonal effects of alcohol and drinking less and when they're drinking alcohol. Like it's pretty cool to witness, especially at that age, like 19 years old.
Yeah.
And the hormonal production of your testosterone while you sleep.
Right.
There's a guy, Vinny Uzi, we had him on. All he does is he talks about both TRT, HRT, but he talks about the not natty stuff too.
All the stuff.
And he did a video where he basically, the whole subtext of it was, hey, are you thinking about getting on steroids? Try sleeping 45 minutes extra per night instead. If you do this, your testosterone is going to rise somewhere like 3% more. Your growth hormone is going to go up. Like sleep will
growth
get
hormone
you
is super impacted.
super impacted by sleep. How like what have you studied on that on GH for sleeping?
It's in the hundreds of percents, especially with food. You know, like so if you have a meal right before bed, you know, you'll have a tenth of the growth hormone production that you would if you didn't. If you give your body time to digest, that first sleep cycle, you have a massive growth hormone spike. That's the biggest spike of the entire day. If you have food right before bed, that spike doesn't happen.
Interesting.
Your body just misses out on it.
How close? Like how late?
2 hours is a pretty good
2 hours
rule of thumb. Yeah, and then it seems like the bigger glycemic impact it has right before bed has more of an impact as well. So like if you're going to have something, if you have like just straight protein right before bed, that seems to be less of an effect than if you have like a bunch of carbs or something like that.
Yeah. For me, it's 2 to 4 raw eggs. If I have anything before I go to sleep,
You go legit raw eggs like from an egg.
From
Like
an egg.
Rocky. Think Rocky.
from an egg. Yeah.
Like, is there any reason you do it raw or just easy?
Fast.
Yeah.
I like to brush my teeth with it.
Do you ever?
I'm an influencer.
Yeah. Do you ever like? Do you crack them in that moment, or do you like put them in a thing, like a bowl?
Sometimes I'll throw them in a shot glass and just drink it. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I do it. It depends on if I want to microwave them or not. Sometimes I'll just throw them in a bowl, microwave them, and then just eat them. So not technically raw, but that either way, it's just eggs.
Do
2 to 4 eggs.
Do you
right
wear
before bed.
a gray sweatsuit and run up the steps of Philadelphia?
Yell Adrian at the top.
Not on the topic we're on, but I wanted to make sure I brought this up to you. Have you ever done any research into grounding sheets?
We're working on that.
I've been using, so the grounding company sent us out a set of their sheets, the pillowcase, the bed
It's incredible.
sheets.
The research is wild.
Really?
It's wild.
I don't know what. Please enlighten me, but I can just speak to the first-hand experience.
It's more of like a anti-inflammatory perspective. That's usually how they look at like C-reactive proteins, and in general, it's very effective. Which when someone brought it up to me initially, like a year, 2 years ago, maybe, I got a lot of questions. People would ask me, and I kind of just like brushed it off because I was like, this is not a thing.
Put a crystal under your bed, you weirdo.
Exactly. I kind of didn't even like look into it. Then like I started getting more questions, and I started reading more about it, and it seems like it's pretty powerful from like a recovery anti-inflammatory perspective, especially like injuries.
Have you seen them? Have you
C-reactive
seen the sheets? I mean, have you held them and touched
Oh
them?
yeah,
Or
I've seen them all. We have, you know, we're gonna do something, and it seems to be powerful. And there's something there. Our body's a giant, you know, electrical grid.
Yeah.
Right? So that would make a lot of sense that those currents play a role. I just don't think I don't think we understand it at all.
For those listening, it's the sheets have a copper lining that is overlaid throughout the entire surface of the sheet. The sheet itself. So if you picture an outlet, you've got your 2 prongs and your grounding port. Your grounding port comes off of the sheets and pillowcase and plugs into the freaking outlet in the wall, which then grounds your bed sheets.
I'm always like wondering though, and I don't know the answer to this. Like, what if like the ground gets struck by lightning right outside your house? Right? Because it's a 2-way current. It's a wire. It's literally a wire connected to the ground.
Luckily, we live in Arizona.
I mean, it would be truly terrifying but hilarious if like you got those sheets and then that happened like the next day or something.
Like it has to.
It's a
something
negative
has to
charge,
happen.
right?
I know for a fact it doesn't, because that was one of the big questions that I made sure they answered for me
Yeah.
was, hey, is there any risk of is there any risk of this outlet sending a charge through? And they said, no, you're not plugging into the outlet, you're plugging into the grounding port
Yeah.
only. There is no electrical current coming.
Yeah, it's not-
just the grounding.
You're plugging into
Current.
the negative.
Yes.
Well, there's no electric current because there's no electric current from the earth. But if it's juiced up from like a
From a lightning strike, yes, I think that would probably
that's
null
what I'm
and
saying.
void their
like,
point.
There's a reason why you have surge protectors when lightning strikes,
When lightning
because
strikes.
I think that current comes shooting through the other way.
But you're plugged into the. You're plugged
only
into
the bottom.
only
only
the
the
bottom.
bottom.
Only the grounding
The
port.
ground.
But it's still current.
I don't know. This is a really good
That's a
question.
good question.
I mean,
Yeah, of course they're going to tell you that there's no risk.
watching. My hope
Yeah, the
would
company
be,
that sells the thing that,
Hey,
that
If
that
you got
that could be the
struck-
new thing. Getting struck by lightning is even better than grounding at night.
oh, I'm so
He
grounded.
comes
I
out
never have-
comes out like Wolverine or something.
that'd be, would that be your superhero of choice?
you have a
Who would you be? I mean, you have all these.
you have a pattern on your back from the sheets just burning through your shirt. Oh man, it's funny. Tyler asked me the same thing earlier. I'd probably say Wolverine. Probably.
That's it.
It's. I think he's such a cool character.
Is it because of the
You are
facial
really
hair?
short.
I mean, you also like you look the closest probably to.
It's
Wolverine.
well.
No.
I wish he. I think he had a lower body fat percentage when he played that last one, but no, I love the character. I think it's really cool. It's a very cool backstory. I love. That's what again I was saying to Tyler. I love characters that are sort of both hero but also really dark. I like when they have character arcs where they're not good guys. They're
I
not.
think that's why everyone doesn't really like Captain America as a
Exactly.
character, because he's just like, all right,
He's so
It's got no
good,
depth.
and boring.
Yeah.
we get it, we
Yeah.
get it. You're like high integrity, we get it.
Yeah,
Gonna do the right
mad
thing.
at
Yeah,
That's why we like Tony Stark. We like
Right.
Venom. There's all
Magneto.
He's an interesting one.
You don't like
His-
Magneto?
No, I love Magneto, but I don't think you could even. I don't even know if you could classify him as. I think he's a villain. He's not an anti-hero. I mean, he's definitely a bad guy. I think his motives are a little.
It's like Bane. You kind of root for Bane. It's not a superhero, but kind of the same vibe
He's cool.
because he's dark, but like
He's dark.
Kind of relate to him a little bit.
He has different motives.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Oftentimes how similar the villains and the heroes in the stories are. They just deal with their pain in different ways.
Definitely.
The villains take their pain and they think, I'm going to take it out on everyone else. And the hero takes their pain like Bruce Wayne and says, I'm going to do everything I can to stop everyone else from getting hurt.
Right.
It's really the only difference between heroes and villains.
I think that relates a lot in life. I think a lot of really high level athletes, like a lot of the feelings they deal with, it drives them to success. But other people have different outlets. Like they turn to other things that are detrimental. But the mindsets are often similar. People addiction and things like that. That's why a lot of high level athletes fall into addiction and vice versa. I think that you pour some of those vices into something, and it can be leveraged for positive.
Yeah.
But a lot of really elite people are tortured souls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just, I mean, if you're somebody with, I mean, like Tiger Woods, people look at his situation and like the laundry list of mistresses that followed him around. You're like, how does this happen? And he, I mean, he's a extreme, I mean, he's a pathological man. He is capable
It's actually
of
wild how
shutting off.
The
compartmentalizing.
Oh, man,
Exactly.
it's wild.
He can compartmentalize his thoughts, but also his feelings,
Yes.
where he won't feel guilty for
No.
the 190th affair. Like,
Well, the interesting thing was like when they got into his childhood, like his father's background that you never had any idea about before. I mean, he's kind of from the
Earl?
same mold. Yeah.
Earl Jones, right?
Yeah,
Earl
yeah.
Jones.
Yeah, it all makes sense once you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you watched the documentary,
Yeah, yeah.
The Tiger. It was well done.
The kids came out with this new clothing line.
Tiger did?
Yeah, he left Nike.
No kidding.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Sunday,
Did you know that?
Sunday Red.
Him and Kanye both branching out on their own. What?
Kanye's
Very
coming
different.
back to Adidas, I think.
I don't
See?
think so.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Really?
Oh, are you kidding? I don't.
He just
I-
posted with the executive of Adidas, I think.
They would take him back.
Yeah.
I think Adidas. I think their sales are not good.
I think they
Yeah.
have to.
I think
At,
they
the,
have
at
to.
the end of the day, I don't think a single corporation gives a shit who you like or don't like based on your racial preference.
I think that it's wild that they would take him back. Because
Yeah.
just dealing with that was probably just an absolute. They probably just had to be on like high alert all the time. Like, oh man, just nervous. Just be nervous.
You'd have to have a team of people dedicated to just watch his social media. Just like watch him and make sure here's the thing that's also not going to help. It's not going to help. His perception of himself is so astronomically inflated, but it doesn't help if Adidas goes back to him because he's not wrong. Like he keeps
Sometimes
winning.
is it inflated? Because like it keeps happening.
proving everyone.
Yeah.
I
He
know.
had. Did you hear his new album? The
I
one
haven't
that
listened to it. I mean, I know the Backstreet Boys
it's
song.
I
First
don't
off,
think,
that song is only good because the Backstreet Boys song is a banger from the get go. You're just
which
using
one? Which song?
everybody.
From wait, are we talking about Kanye? Or are you talking
Yeah.
about which song?
He covered it. What's the name of that? You know the song with the
Is it on the new album?
yeah.
What's it called? I heard the new album. I until I see the name of the track.
I'm not gonna sing it, especially on a mic. Right now.
Yes, from experience, I can tell you that wouldn't end well if
No.
you sing Kanye songs.
No.
Did I ever tell you that we almost got?
How about we stop with that?
Yeah, no, I'll tell you afterwards. I'll tell you afterwards.
That's good.
His new album is
This
what?
is it.
Vultures.
Vultures
I
one.
got it right
yeah.
here.
Why the one is in there? I don't know. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Love it.
It's just
I'm gonna edit this part out so we don't get,
We don't
like,
get
flagged by
Banned
copyright.
on YouTube.
well, initially he didn't ask them for the rights to use it.
Of course he
Of
didn't.
course.
Of course he didn't. He's like, I'm Kanye West. You should be asking me before you
Yeah.
make your music.
But it's literally just the same song with like a drum in the background. I'm like, well, that was a great when it came out. It was a banger.
The
kidding.
third or fourth one. Oh God, seriously though, I had to get rid of so many people. And everybody has him in their shit, and I was sick and tired of seeing him.
It's also hilarious how Kanye uses social media, because he for example, he had a post like the other day that was like, he's like, hey, where do I get the people to do the graphics for my my shows? And he had all these examples, and it was literally just a screenshot from his phone video.
Yep.
And he like crowdsources that type of information. It's
It's-
like no one else is doing that really on social media.
I think he's pretty smart in things like that. I think he's actually more intentional than people give him credit for. Like I think he really knows how to leverage stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think he knows how to placate to his audience too.
I actually.
He's just crazy enough, but not crazy to where he doesn't know what.
The governor of
People
Illinois had a meeting with them, and I know his chief of staff, and he came out of the meeting saying he is one of the most brilliant people I've ever talked to. Like,
Kanye?
Yeah, just like I don't know what the conversation was, but it's hard to tell because you always see him in the public light, so I wonder like behind closed doors, like maybe he's more eloquent, maybe he is able to communicate, in a not, I think a lot of it is probably strategic. And he's
Yeah.
trying to like say something. I don't know. I'm just saying.
If what he's saying is true.
And also, I don't think this person wanted to necessarily think that, so take it for what it is.
Huh.
I also think, look, I know the guy's mentally ill, and I know the guy's medicated, and then not medicated, and then back on medication again. I mean, you are really dealing with a volatile situation.
Definitely.
With anything.
Ups and downs.
He could have been medicated when he walked in and met with the governor.
Yeah.
And then he may decide next week not to be.
Yeah.
And then he'll write an album.
Yeah.
And it's just a totally different human being. I just can't even imagine living a week as that guy. What that would be like. That's got to be stressful just by itself. Just existing
Stressful
as him.
watching.
No, I don't think it is for him.
Okay.
I think
are we-
he's like, I don't care at all.
He's got billions of dollars.
I don't care at all. Yeah, how about no one's even talked about the fact that he just got kicked out of Venice for his girlfriend like blowing him in the canoe.
Yeah,
like,
it's not
do,
good.
Do you remember him doing that like last year or something?
Oh, yeah.
He really doesn't care at all.
No.
He's very difficult to go. He also, I mean, he does a gospel album, then gets kicked out of Venice,
That's really weird.
then made Vultures 1. It's impossible to judge what he's going to do.
Keeps you on your toes for sure.
So I had a side question for you, Todd, because you were talking about eating 2 hours before bed. I like obviously extending that time better. I want to hear about caffeine intake, like when you should stop drinking caffeine. But what
Yeah.
is your sleep protocol right now?
Like my personal sleep
Yeah.
protocol. Yeah, so every single night, I do sauna every single night. So I usually try to get in at like 7:30.
Heck yeah.
And we'll do like 20 minutes, probably 2 rounds of 20 minutes. And then I'll go like sauna. Depends how much time. Definitely sauna. And then I do like maybe 30 seconds in the cold. I don't have enough cold to really like wake me up, just enough to cool off. Sauna 20, like 30 seconds to cold sauna, and then just a dip in the cold. Me and my wife used to do that every single night. Been doing hot tub more though.
Oh, hydrotherapy is where it's at. Man.
Very relaxing.
Yeah.
But
have you implemented float therapy yourself? Have you ever tried that?
So it was weird. I tried, but it kind of makes me a little like motion sick. It's weird. I get a little motion. I get a little car sick as is, and I should probably try it again. But yeah, I get a little like nauseous.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
I get it.
But so yeah, I'll do sauna every night, and then I'll do like a magnesium supplement of some sort at that point. But the thing is, before the sauna, I try to really dim all the lights in my house. So we have like these lights that are really yellow, and they're smaller. So I turn off all the bright like LED lights, and just leave those on. And then I like candles and like a fireplace, honestly, as much as I can. So try to create a continuum from like when the sun goes down, and try to like mimic that inside as much as I can, and then gradually taper off the sauna. And then
you done any red light? Any like Mito red lights?
Yeah, we have a Cozy red light, which actually I think is based in Scottsdale.
Is that the ones that are in your lamp? Like it's a
no,
lamp?
so these are
the panels.
Big panel. It's like a horizontal panel, which is nice, so you can lay down. At one point, I had them in the bedroom, so you could like lay on the bed and then just like went over you, kind of, which was cool. But I haven't been as consistent with that. But I will say every night though I do watch. I have blue light blocking glasses I throw on, but me and my wife watch one show every single night, and so I always talk about this. But beyond like health, longevity, and sleep, relationships are by far the most important thing. And like my marriage is way more important than any like 1 or 2% I'm going to eke out over not watching a screen. And that time for us, yeah, like I don't know, but that time has been consistent the last 10 years. So it's like that, like it's like special kind of like download from the day, just spend some time. My dog's there, and so I try to mitigate the negative effects of like watching TV, but I wouldn't trade that for anything. So we still do that every single night. And then sleep mask, mouth tape. We both do it. Katie's a hard sell. So my wife, obviously, she's 2-time Olympian, so she's very diligent, but she's very diligent when there's a goal. Right, so she's not really into like health and longevity. She wants to be healthy, be fit, but she doesn't like to work out. She works out all the time for a purpose. So like when it came to the sleep stuff, she's actually like the hardest sell, because unless she actually feels a lot better, she's not just going to do it to do it. She's not really into it. So initially, like I had to get her to try the sleep mask, and then it took forever to, like, she didn't even give the mouth tape a fair try until after we were already selling it. So like we were developing it, and she was like, no. But now like every single night, like she's
like your wife.
Yeah.
She's ride or die every night. Mouth tape, sleep mask, because she believes in it so much, she feels so much better. So if there's people are always like, oh, of course she does. I'm like, no. If there's anyone that's a hard sell, like if she doesn't believe in it, she will not do it. So yeah, we're quite the pair with like the mask and the mouth tape. But I keep it pretty simple too, because I feel like with the protocols, I travel a ton. So I try to keep it relatively simple and, easy to duplicate when I'm on the road. But I mean, the sleep mask, I think, on the road is by far the most impact. Well, the mouth tape is non-negotiable. Like after you get used to it, like it's really hard not to use it, because you notice the difference. But traveling, I mean, the sleep mask is so underrated. I think it's really underrated in the sleep world too, because like the studies done, they're just not a good design, because it's like they have people use it and not use it, and they don't factor in the length of time they use it, and like the psychological triggers, and people who are on their phone, and then they put, people are used to being on their phone, and now all of a sudden they have this routine that eliminates that. Like that's where the big value is, but that's never going to show up in a study.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a very underutilized tool. I think it's something that's kind of pinned as this like beauty product, kind of like a fluffy, like, nice to have type thing, but it's really an amazing tool. And I think as routine goes, it's probably even more impactful than the mouth tape from a pure routine psychological perspective. I think the mouth tape is more like physiological response, but from a psychological perspective, especially with college athletes, like such a profound impact, because they're literally just scrolling, Snapchat, whatever, until they pass out.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden they're actually committing to going to bed, and they're probably exhausted. They just don't realize that their brain's just stimulated, but they're exhausted. And now they have this routine, and they fall asleep in like three minutes probably.
And I wanted to ask about that. Like, you don't want to be like looking at your phone or watching a movie or anything in the same place that you're sleeping, right? Is there a lot of truth to that?
Yeah, like your body is really good with associating environments, like subconsciously, even more than you realize. So when you're in bed and you're texting or emailing, whatever it is, even if it's not necessarily negative, it could be positive stuff. It's still, it's still interpreted as a task, right? So from an evolutionary perspective, that's almost like a threat, something to do. So the more you do that stuff in bed, the less it becomes this kind of sacred place of rest, and your body's not as easily down-regulated. Like you kind of feel like you're ramped up a little bit because of that. And so it's great to kind of, disassociate those things and avoid it as much as you can. But the other thing is too, with the light and like being on your phone, the more I look into this, I actually think it's more to do with the stimulation that's coming from what you're doing. Like if you're on TikTok or you're texting, I think it's more about the thoughts you're having and actually being engaged with it than purely the light. And I think it'd be really hard.
Meaning what you are watching.
Right.
The higher intensity that it is, the worse it'll be for your sleep.
And just the engagement, like how excitable you are from it, or I guess how much attention it's bringing, how engaged you are with the content. So like if you're on TikTok and you're laughing or you're really interested in it, like you're gonna really invigorate your brain. Like your brain activity is gonna go up. So as opposed to like you just had a light sitting there, but you weren't really engaged with it.
Yeah,
that makes
it wouldn't
sense.
be as bad, even if you were looking at it. If there was a little blue light bulb and you just like stared at it, you could probably fall asleep.
Like if you had the lights on even and you were pretty tired. Let's say you did your same routine, all the lights on, didn't look at any screens or anything you cared about, you probably would fall asleep faster than if you had all the lights out, but you have TikToks or whatever that you're really interested in, and you just like, let's say you lined up 100 videos you were really interested in, you hadn't seen, and you're just scrolling there, and everything else is perfect. I think that would have a bigger impact after looking at a few studies and stuff. That would have a bigger impact than all the lights on, just because your brain's actually stimulated from the content, not necessarily just the light.
Yeah, that would be an interesting study. Is to see the impact that viewing porn has on your brain right before you go to sleep.
Well, it depends on what you did. Probably wouldn't you?
I mean, I'm going off what I
if you just
would
looked
assume
at it.
most guys and people are doing. I mean, that is definitely something that has an impact on your sleep if you do that right beforehand.
Well, I mean, erectile dysfunction has exploded over the last decade, I would say, and I don't think people realize that for that to happen, you have to be in a parasympathetic state of nervous system, which is basically a relaxed nervous system state. And that's probably the reason why it's such a huge issue with people, is because everyone's just chronically at a low level of stress all the time, whether it be their breathing or life, stress, screens, all these things add up. And so you actually have to be relaxed in order for that to happen.
I'm sorry, you said everyone is overstimulated all the time, meaning everybody lives in a fight or flight state.
Like when you're stressed, like you arousal's not going to happen. Yeah, you have to be in a safe place, which makes sense. Like when you think from an evolutionary perspective, and people can't chronically do that. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
But then it's the opposite. It switches to sympathetic, like a very aroused, like a very fight state right at the end, and then it goes back down. So it's it makes sense why everybody has such a hard time with it. I feel like there's a commercial about it every other second.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and everybody assumes it's an anatomical position. Usually, it's an anatomical mistake. It's usually a brain issue. Especially if somebody's doing that. 100%. If someone's viewing that stuff, that's gonna mess with your ability to perceive reality.
All net negative on all that.
But specifically, because I mean, I know, including myself personally, right before bed is definitely a time when that is happening. A lot of times, somebody who's viewing that stuff, a lot of times it'll be right before bed. What does that do when you sleep? I'm curious. I would be interested to see if that, affects your sleep. It's something. I mean, it'd be interesting to see.
There's some abstract stuff sometimes you don't realize, some of these studies that came out, but I don't know.
I've never seen anything on that. It'd be fascinating either way. Thanks for coming in again. I know it was
absolutely
last minute thing, but we made it happen. We're a bunch of killers in here, man. 2 podcasts today. What else? You're not doing anything else today. There's no way.
No, just dinner with my mom.
Nice, bro.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get you out of here. If people want to know about it, Dream Recovery on the IG. Anywhere else you'd send them?
I mean, that's pretty much the most part. I most active on Instagram, TikTok, website. Anybody wants to reach out, I'm more than happy to answer questions. I'm not somebody that likes to charge for everything. I'm more than willing to help,
Yeah.
whether it has to do with our products or not.
Love
Awesome,
it.
buddy.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. Thanks for coming in, bud.
All right, appreciate
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Cool.
Todd.
All right, we'll stop there. Thank you guys so much for watching that episode of Becoming the 1% Podcast. If you like the content and you want to see more of it, hit the like and subscribe. Activate that notification bell as well. We really appreciate it. If you guys want to see more of it, we actually have the Becoming the 1% Instagram, and the podcast is available on Spotify. For our socials, we have Strict Vision Athletics on Instagram, we have it on YouTube, and we have it on TikTok.